In my research, I found that self-made millionaires possess a series of qualities. If you have these qualities, your success is virtually guaranteed. And even if you don't currently possess them, the good news is that they can be learned. Firstly, it's important to understand that all business or sales skills are learnable. Similarly, all financial skills can be acquired. Just as you can learn to drive a car, you can learn any skill necessary for success. Now, point number 2. You're probably only one skill away from doubling your income. Yes, it's true. You're likely just one skill away from putting yourself on the path to becoming a self-made millionaire. And if you're not sure what that skill is, perhaps it will become evident as we spend time together. Whatever it may be, you need to identify it and start working on it because it is indeed learnable. Some may say, I've never been good with money. Well, it's time to change that mindset. The fact is, you can learn whatever you need to achieve your goals. As one of my seminar participants put it, money is like food. When you have enough, you don't think about it. But when you're deprived of it, it consumes your thoughts. More people are achieving financial independence and becoming self-made millionaires at a faster rate than ever before. And the majority of them are first-generation success stories. This means they started with little or nothing and earned their wealth from scratch. The fact that so many others have gone from rags to riches is proof that you can do it too. You just need to learn how. Becoming a self-made millionaire can be relatively simple. For instance, if you save just $100 per month from the age of 20 to 65 and invest it wisely, you could amass a significant sum by the time you retire. Ultimately, the most successful people in society are those who have a long-term perspective. They think and plan decades into the future, organizing their daily activities in alignment with their long-term goals. They think and plan 10, 20, and even 40 years into the future. Then, they organize their daily and weekly activities in such a way that everything they do is consistent with the long-term goals they want to achieve. This is especially true regarding achieving financial independence. Everyone has a series of goals, whether clear or fuzzy. Each of these goals is organized in a hierarchy, consciously or unconsciously, from the most important to the least important. The reason people fail to achieve financial independence is that, although it's a goal, it often isn't their primary goal. It's just one of many goals they think about from time to time. When it's time to act or spend, their other goals, like immediate pleasure and gratification, take precedence. It's only when you elevate the goal of financial independence to the top of your hierarchy of values that you begin to gain control of your financial life. Remember the great principle: you become what you think about most of the time. In thousands of interviews, researchers have found that self-made millionaires think about financial independence most of the time. They organize their entire lives around saving, accumulating, and continually seeking ways to earn, acquire, invest, and deploy their savings. The fact is, you're not going to win the lottery or inherit a large sum of money from a distant relative. The only way to achieve financial independence is with a long-term perspective by consistently saving and investing your money month after month and year after year until you've accumulated enough to never worry about money again. For most people, money represents freedom, one of the highest human values. It enables you to be and do what you want and to buy what you need without worrying about the cost. Freedom is a powerful driving force that has shaped human history. So, what are your personal values regarding money? It's essential to note that negative values concerning money can sabotage you throughout your life. One of the wisest things you can do is to admire, respect, and look up to people who have achieved financial success. You tend to move in the direction of what you admire and respect. The more you admire and respect financial success, the more likely you are to emulate the behaviors of financially successful people and eventually become financially successful yourself. Imagine your financial life was perfect in every respect. Picture your distant financial future as if every financial dream had been realized. What does it look like? Music. How much would you like to be worth when you retire or stop working? What kind of lifestyle would you like to have at that time? How much will you have to save and invest every month, every year, to reach your long-term financial goals? These are questions that most people seldom ask or answer. Imagine that you have no limitations on your long-term ability to achieve financial independence. Imagine that you have all the time and all the resources you require, all the knowledge and experience you need, and all the contacts and opportunities you could ask for. If you could design your financial life to be perfect in every way, with no limitations, what would it look like? Imagine that you have finally achieved a net worth of $10 million. What would you do? How would you change your life if you were completely financially independent? Make up a dream list of every single thing you would want in your life, tangible and intangible, if you had all the money you would ever need. The greater clarity you have regarding your long-term financial future, the faster you will attract the people and resources that you will need to achieve it into your life, and the more rapidly you will realize your vision. In general, you should have 4 financial goals. First, you want to earn as much as you can. Second, you want to spend as little as you can. Third, you want to save and invest as much as possible. Fourth, you want to protect yourself against unexpected reversals and lawsuits. The achievement of each of these goals is very much under your control. Perhaps the best measure you can use if financial independence is your goal is to determine how much money you will need each month, each year, to live comfortably, and then calculate how long you could sustain your current lifestyle and your current savings. This number is called your run rate or your burn rate. It's a calculation of how long you can survive with what you have accumulated up to now, and it's the best measure of your overall financial health. This is a great focal point. Set clear financial goals and targets for each part of your financial life, both for the short term and for the long term. Examine every expenditure in your life and look for ways to reduce your monthly living costs. Set a goal to cut your expenses by 10 or 20% over the next 90 days. Make cost control and cost cutting a regular part of your life, no matter how much you earn. Since you become what you think about most of the time, the more time you spend thinking about your money, the better you will become in terms of managing it. The first knowledge that you will require to achieve financial independence is the knowledge of exactly how much you are earning today, how much you are spending each month, and how much you are worth right now. You should keep a list of every dollar you spend and analyze your list regularly. The more attention you pay to your day-to-day spending, the smarter and more aware you will become regarding the amount of money flowing through your fingers. It's a rule that will virtually guarantee that you become wealthy over the course of your working lifetime. Save and invest 50% of any increase that you earn in your salary or compensation for the rest of your career. You can still spend the other 50% of the increase on improving your standard of living, but resolve today to save half of every increase for the rest of your career. This discipline alone will assure that you achieve financial independence, and probably several years before you expect to. Apply the 80-20 rule to your job every day. Identify the 20% of your tasks that account for 80% of the value of everything you do. Resolve to focus more and more of your attention on becoming better and better at those few activities that are worth more than all the rest. There are certain habits and behaviors that lead inevitably to financial success. The first and most important habit is for you to pay yourself first. As George Clason wrote in his classic book, The Richest Man in Babylon, a part of all you earn is yours to keep. Pay yourself first off the top. Your goal is to eventually save 10% to 20% of your income throughout your life. Your aim should be to put this amount away regularly, to invest it with experts, and to let it grow over time. If you cannot afford to save 10% of your income, begin by saving 1% of your income. Begin saving and investing even before you pay off your debts. Begin putting money away before you pay down the amounts that you owe. This is very important. By developing the habit of saving a certain percentage of what you earn off the top of every single paycheck, you will eventually change your entire attitude towards yourself and money. The most important habit you can develop to achieve financial independence is the habit of frugality. Carefully consider every expense before you make it. If possible, delay a large purchase for a day, a week, a month, or even longer. Take that time to think about it before you commit. Perhaps the most helpful habit of all is for you to learn to enjoy the very act of saving and investing. When you begin to look forward to every opportunity to put money away, you change your entire attitude toward money and investments. You begin to get tremendous pleasure and satisfaction from seeing your savings and investments grow over time. There are 4 activities that you should engage in every single day to guarantee that you achieve financial independence. The first is to carefully evaluate every expenditure before you make it. Delay every expenditure that you possibly can. Put it off until later, if you make it at all. The second thing that you should do is to set clear goals and targets for the amounts that you intend to earn and keep. Measure your results against these targets every week and every month. What gets measured gets done. The third activity is for you to look for ways to reduce your monthly expenditures and instead save the money. Cut out all non-essential expenses. Keep asking yourself, do I really need this? And if you don't buy it or don't spend it. Set it as a goal to reduce your monthly cost of living by as much as you can as quickly as possible. Remember, every dollar that you can save from your monthly expenses is an additional dollar that you can put into your financial freedom account. The fourth activity is for you to take every opportunity that you possibly can to increase your value, to increase your earning ability. Look for ways to upgrade your knowledge and skills. Concentrate on getting better at those activities that contribute the greatest value to yourself and your company. Become totally focused on making more and saving more every single day. Financial success is predictable. It has never been more possible for you to earn and keep more money than it is today. There are hundreds of thousands and even millions of self-made millionaires, all of whom started with nothing and who began using the practices and processes described in this session. Your job is to become one of them. Begin today. Imagine that there are two types of work that you do. There's work that we will call work number one. This work is work that has big potential consequences. If you do this and you do it well, it makes a big difference in your life and your family and everything else. The other type of work you do are what we call number two work. This work has no potential consequences. So, the first category of work moves you toward your most important goals faster than anything else. This other type of work does not move you toward your goals, and even worse, it moves you away from your goals. All the examples of time that you waste doing things of no value. Here's a simple way to become one of the highest paid and most productive people in society. Do only number one tasks. Do only those things that are moving you every day toward the goals that you say you want to achieve. If you only do those things, the things that have great potential consequences, it transforms your life. Now, here's another discovery. 95% of what you do comes from habit. And if you do something repeatedly over and over again, what do you develop? You develop a new habit. You've heard the rule, the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, where the top 20% of salespeople make 80% of the sales, and the bottom 80% of salespeople make 20% of the sales. Do you know what the difference, the ratio, is there? The ratio is the difference between 16 to 1. The average income of people in the top 20% is 16 times the average income of the people in the bottom 80%. Now, let me ask you a question. Does it mean that the people in the top 20% are 16 times better than the people in the bottom 80%? 16 times more experienced? Do they work 16 times the number of hours? Do they have 16 times the number of years of education? Are they 16 times more handsome? Are they 16 times anything? You know that it's not humanly possible to be twice as smart as somebody else. I'm not sure if you're looking at very, very unintelligent people and very, very brilliant people, which is really not humanly possible, on average, for us to even be twice as smart as anybody else. But 20% of these people are making 16 times the average in our society. It is a lot of controversy over why should I work so hard for my job. The fact of the matter is that less than 5% really succeed. That's less than 5% of the population really succeeds at life. If I have 100 people working today, only one will be wealthy when they retire. 4 will be financially independent. 15 will have some savings. 80% will be broke and dependent upon charities and pensions. Only 1 or 2% of people in each generation really make it in life. And in every single study, those people who make it are those who work hard, hard, hard. And if you think that it's hard to be successful, try being a failure. Try coming to the end of the trail with no money, dependent upon pensions, and you don't know what hard is until you try living like that. But if you work hard, the average self-made millionaire in America works 12 to 13 hours a day, works about 60 to 65 hours a week. I'll tell you this, with regard to hard work, that you in our society only work 8 hours a day for survival. Everything over 8 hours is for success. And if you're only working 8 hours a day, you're in trouble. If you're only working 8 hours a day, you better have a rich uncle, or you better have somebody else who's going to take care of you, because 8 hours a day only gets you survival in our society. Because it's so competitive that somebody else is working 9, they've got an edge on you. Somebody else is working 10, they've got a bigger edge on you. Every hour over 8 that you invest is an investment in your future, is an investment in your success. And if you put in the hours over 8, whether it's studying or reading or working, if you put in the hours, it will pay off. And it will pay off in spades. It's like throwing seed in the ground. When you throw a seed in the ground, the plant that comes up is not just one seed, it's hundreds of seeds. There's a crop that you put in, but you must put the seed in the ground first. The market only pays excellent rewards for excellent performance. It pays average rewards for average performance. It pays below average rewards for below average performance. And I talk to men and women all over America who are unhappy and sad and they don't like their work. And you know why? It's because they're not good at what they're doing. So, your earning ability is the most powerful and most valuable financial asset you have. And your earning ability, by definition, is your ability to get results that people will pay you for. Now, this doesn't mean that you are not a valuable person. Each human being is of incredible value, but some people's earning ability is much higher than others. And your earning ability is an asset. So, it can be either increasing in value or decreasing in value. Now, here's what the studies have found, the 80-20th rule. They found that the bottom 80% of people, the ones who struggle for money and worry about money all their lives, these people, when they take their first job, will work to a certain level and then they will level off and never improve for the rest of their lives unless they're forced to. And so, therefore, 10 years after starting work, the average person today is no more productive at getting results than they were after 1 year. But they find that the people in the top 20% are very different. The people in the bottom 80% increase their income about 2 or 3% per year over the years. The top 20% increase their income at an average of about 11% per year. If your income goes up 11% per year, you will double your income every 6 or 7 years. And then you will double it again, and then you'll double it again, and soon you live in a beautiful house, and you drive a nice car, and you send your children to private schools, and you have a nice bank account, and you'll be happy. But if you don't keep increasing your income, nothing good will happen. Now, what is the difference? The answer is, the people in the bottom 80% don't learn anymore after they leave school. But the people in the top 20% are always learning new things. And as a result, they are increasing their earning ability. People in the top 10% in every field think in terms of their hourly rate, how much they earn each hour. Now, this change in thinking changes your entire life. I know because I've taught this principle to thousands of people who literally transform their lives and their incomes almost overnight. If you think in terms of how much you earn in a week or a month, well then, you have a natural tendency to waste time during the day. Monday is a slow day. You're recovering from the weekend. Tuesday, you start to work. Wednesday, the week is almost over. Thursday, you start to slow down, and now it's Friday. Who gets anything done on Friday? We'll do it on Monday. So, people's ability to produce drops, and since 80% of the population thinks like this, if you're not careful, you'll find you are surrounded by people who waste time. When you start thinking in terms of your hourly rate, it transforms your life. Poor folks have poor ways. It's really hard to get over poor folks' poor ways. Always remember that poor folks have poor ways. They think poor, they think cheap, they think saving is spending as little as possible, and they think about the little money they have. But you find that successful people have successful thinking. They think very, very differently than poor people. So remember, poor folks have poor ways, but rich folks have rich ways. It's because people who make a lot of money, like my friend Jim Rohn said, the most important part of becoming a millionaire is not the money, but it's the person you have to become a millionaire. You have to become a totally different person to go from zero to being worth more than $1 million. But the good news is that if you lost all of your money because of a crash in the economy or something else, you can make it all back again because now you're the kind of person who can make it. Once you become a millionaire in your thinking, then it's only a matter of time before you quickly restore that amount of money in your reality. So, the starting point is to change our thinking, which we have said over and over again, and I've written extensively on this. But the path of least resistance is a really big killer. It's the tendency to look for the easy way, the fast way, the cheap way, the method of least effort or least cost to achieve things. And what we have in our society today, as a result of several generations of affluence, is an enormous number of people who are literally addicted to the shortcut, the easy way, the fast, quick way. There's an old saying with regard to these get-rich-quick schemes. When a man with experience meets a man with money, the man with money is going to end up with the experience, and the man with experience will end up with the money. So you'll find that the newspapers, magazines, and television are all full of get-rich-quick schemes because there are always people who think it's possible to get rich quick. get rich easy. All you have to do is find a trick or a gimmick. And there's an enormous number of people who say, rich people are just lucky. They just had a gimmick, they just had a trick. The fact is that the rich have been studied at great length. It takes about 22 years from the time you decide to become a millionaire before you hit $1 million net worth. I think it's about 22 years on average, based on the studies of many thousands and tens of thousands of self-made millionaires. People say, wow, that's a long time. If it is, get on with it. So people start at 20, by the age of 42, they're millionaires. By the age of 45, they're dual millionaires. By the age of 50 or 55, because, as we say, the first million is hard, the second million is inevitable. So, what you do is you have to make the first million. Why? Because you have to become a very different, disciplined, higher form of human being to actually make such a contribution that you actually earn and hold on to more than $1 million. It forces you to become somebody really different than you've ever been before. Financial freedom is a real big issue today. Financial freedom means that you don't worry about money. Worries about money, by the way, are the #1 reason for marital breakdown. Worries, disagreements, arguments over money. So if you have problems with money, they affect your relationship. If you have problems in your relationship, they affect your health. If you have problems with your health, it affects your peace of mind. And money is a major issue. We've been living through the most affluent country in the most affluent time in all of human history for the last 50 years. We've grown up in a level of affluence that is unimaginable for 95% of the world. And we have come to believe that this is what we're entitled to. You grow up in America, you're entitled to a fat life. One of the things that is leading to major social disruptions is a lot of people are finding that it's not true anymore. If you want to be financially successful, you won't have to work very, very hard. You're going to have to get up early and hit it hard and work all day and work into the evening. You're going to have to work 6 days a week. There's no wealthy people who work 5 days a week. None. There's no successful people who work 5 days a week, because if you work 5 days a week, you actually only work about 4. And you start late, you leave early, and you waste time all day long. Successful people work long days, and they work into the weekends. However, they're doing something they enjoy, and they're doing something they get tremendous satisfaction from because they're making progress. And as a result, it's really not work. You know the old rule, I found something I love to do, and I never worked again the rest of my life. I worked 7 days a week, but I never worked a day. And you'll find that when you do that, which you will before we're finished, when you start to find what it is that you would love to do and put your whole heart into it, you never work again. And you get paid more than you ever dreamed of. And you don't even care. You don't even count the money anymore because you're just getting so much satisfaction from using yourself at the very highest level. So financial freedom, this is something we people have to start thinking about. The worst thing you can do today is to be in debt. As you know, as they say, the debt comes and goes, but the interest payments stay forever. And it's the interest that kills you. It's the constant payment. Look at that. So one of our goals is to achieve financial freedom. And this isn't something that happens by accident. We don't say, well, geez, I'm not sure I'm financially free this morning. No, but what we have to do is we have to set it down and make a plan, and we have to work on it for a long, long time. It's not something you can do once. It's something you need to do throughout your career. And too many people today are deeply in debt. You know that 70% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck? 70% of Americans. What that means is that they have no money, they have no reserves. The average American family at the age of 40, for the major breadwinner, has a total net worth of about $40,000. And that's including the equity in their home. At the age of 60, they have a net worth of about $62,000. An average of about $1,000 a year. Most people without pensions, that's why there's so much political controversy. Without pensions, most people would be destitute. They'd be impoverished because they have nothing. 70% have nothing. Why? It's not because they haven't earned a lot of money. You know that if you save $100 a month for your entire working lifetime, you'd be worth more than $1 million when you retire? $100 a month? If somebody put a gun to your head, could you save $100 a month? Well, it does. And people don't even save that. They spend it. They buy stuff they don't need to impress people they don't like. So here's where we start with our entrepreneurs. We say there are 4 keys. One is to clarify. Clarity is 95% of your success. Be absolutely clear about who you are, what you want, and your goals. Second is to simplify. Simplify means to delegate, outsource, and eliminate low value, no value tasks and activities in your life. In other words, look at the things you do in your life that contribute very little to your success, but you keep doing them anyway. And you'll find that about 80% of your life is trivia. Remember the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do accounts for 80% of your results, success, rewards, satisfaction, happiness, joy. Everything is in the top 20%, which means the bottom 80% could be cut out completely and have no negative effect on your life. What do most people spend most of their time on? Bottom 80%. You know, television watching. Since the last time we did this seminar just a few months ago, at that time it was 150 hours a month for the average adult in America. It's up to 158 hours in less than a year. Average Americans watching 5.5 to 6 hours, jumping up over 5 hours of television per day. Average non-adult, what is on social media, 5 hours a day. Television watching, by the way, for young people is dropping dramatically. The networks are going bonkers. But it's older people who are not high-tech. They watch television 5 hours a day. Just imagine if you took 2 of those hours and you read something worthwhile. You'd be rich in a few years. Television makes you poor. They did an interesting study. They took people, socioeconomic categories, Wall Street Journal. They found as you went down the socioeconomic categories to the poorest of the poor, they had no books in their homes and the biggest televisions they could afford. As you went up to the top, and they watched about 7 hours of television a day. As the band began to go up in terms of income, television watching decreased until they got to the top 5 or 10%. These people, it's very seldom watch television. They would pre-record something and watch it at their leisure later on in the evenings or on the weekends. Very seldom watch television, and their homes were full of books. So if you wanted to get into the top 10%, what you do is you have to do things that the top 10% of people do. Thank you. The rules for achieving financial independence are simple. Rule number 1 is spend less than you earn. 5 words, and then save or invest the difference. This has always been the case. This is the key to financial success going back to The Richest Man in Babylon by Clayson more than 2,000 years ago. You can be a blithering idiot at an average job, working at a gas station or on the farm, or driving a truck at an average wage. But if you save $100 a month on average from age 20 to age 65 and let it accumulate, you'll be worth more than $1 million. $100 a month, $25 a week, or less than $4 a day. About the same amount as mine, while latte coffee at Starbucks. Can you do that? Okay, we'll do lots of other things, but do that for sure. Now rule number 2 for achieving financial independence is that 10% of every dollar you earn is yours to keep. What this means is that you need to develop a habit from the beginning of your career and throughout of cutting 10% off the top of your salary and living on the other 90%. Most people get their paycheck and they spend most of it. If there's anything left over, they throw it in the bank temporarily, and then they grab it out and spend it on something else. They look at their bank account and shout, "Gee, we've got money here. Let's burn it." Some people have just got to get rid of the money. Rule number 3 is resolve in advance to prefer financial independence to status. The work in The Millionaire Next Door found that the mark of self-made millionaires is that they weren't concerned about impressing the neighbors or keeping up with the Joneses. They were more concerned with financial independence than by looking good on the outside, at least until they became wealthy. So say to yourself, financial independence is number 1 to me, and status is number 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. Then be willing to stick to it. It's absolutely amazing what will happen to you financially. Do you know what we found out about self-made millionaires? They never buy new cars. Why? Because in a new car, there's several $1,000s of depreciation. That's money that you lose the minute you drive it off the line. So what self-made millionaires do, based on interviews with thousands of them, is they pick a car they really like. They follow it in Consumer Reports and J.D. Power for quality and service. And then about 2 to 3 years out, they look for used models with low mileage and good service records. And then they buy a car that 20 to 25% in depreciation has already been taken out of. I've worked with a man once who started with nothing and achieved a net worth of $800 million. Now, he lived in a nice, middle-class neighborhood, with doctors and lawyers and architects. but not ostentatious. But the people living on either side of him were just 2 paychecks away from homelessness. If their income was cut off for 2 months, they wouldn't be able to make their mortgage payments. I watched this guy. He drove the same used car for 3 or 4 years. He liked Cadillac. Do you get a nice Cadillac? Take good care of it. Then you get another used or loaner vehicle from a dealership so that it had already been depreciated. He was never ostentatious at all, and he ended up one of the richest men in America. When you met him, he'd be wearing an old sweater. He didn't have a huge wardrobe or the same suits to meetings. And he had no bills at all. But when he wanted to go somewhere, he'd fly in his private $25 million jet all by himself. Now, back to the last rule for achieving financial independence. Rule number 4 is once you put the money away, never touch it. Now, this is important. So if you're writing it down, write it in red. You see, many of us make the mistake of thinking that if you save money, you put that money away so you can have it. It's fun money. So when you decide, I want to buy a car, I want to go on a trip, I want a boat, I want a motorhome, you go and you get this money that you save. However, if you want to spend money on those things, set up a separate savings account. This money is for your financial security. This is your financial freedom fund. Once you put money into this financial freedom account, you lock it in like a one-way door. It goes in and it never comes out. You'll never spend it. I can tell you all kinds of stories about how this will change your life, including in my life. Please believe me, once you put it away and decide that you will never spend it, as far as you're concerned, it's gone forever. I personally will do whatever is necessary, no matter what my financial emergency is, to not touch my financial fortress. Never touch it, because if you even think for a tiny glimmer that you can get it if you need it, then you'll find yourself needing it at the first opportunity. So, the key to financial success is to pay yourself first. Save 10% off of your account. Buy used things rather than new, and once you put money away, never touch it. Put it away and let it stay there until it accumulates and enables you to do anything you want in life. Today in America, it's a little different because of the state of the economy. And, of course, if you really bought low and sold high, but very few of us did that. A 10 to 20% per year after taxes and expenses in terms of growing your net worth is a pretty good goal, and it's ultimately achievable. So, write down 5 figures representing your target net worth over the next 5 years. It seems remarkable, but the fact is that the starting point of increasing your income or your net worth is very simple. Can you guess what it is? Decide to do it. Make a decision to become financially independent. You say, well, it's not that simple. Well, it is that simple. It's just not easy. But it is simple. The primary reason that people don't succeed in life financially is because they never decide to, and then back up that decision with determination. Now, there are a lot of things you can do after you've made a decision, but there are very few things you can do before making a decision or without making a decision at all. So, make that decision. Your decision may be wrong or it may be inaccurate, but at least it's a great starting point. It's like drawing a line in the ground to step over it. And what if I don't get it by such and such a date? Don't worry about it. At least get it on paper and take the first step. Once upon a time, when I started my career, I sat down at the end of the year and my tax returns were $14,400. 12 years later, I sat down and did my tax returns, and my tax returns were $1,440,000. I'd increased my income by 100 times in 12 years. And I went back and I started to look at that, and I realized that I'd used a formula which I gradually articulated into what I called the 1000% formula. And it's very simple. It's based on the law of incremental improvement. Japanese call it the Kaizen principle, the principle of continuous betterment, getting a little bit better every day. So I asked the question, if you could increase your productivity, performance, and output by 0.1% per day, could you do that? Could you increase your productivity, performance, and output by 1/1000th in a day? And the answer is, of course, if you're even a tiny bit more efficient or you work a little bit harder on a more important task, you could become 0.1% better in a day. Well, if you did that every single day for a week, you would be 0.1% times 5. You'd be 0.5% more productive in a week. Is that possible? Of course, you would say. Anybody can become that small amount more productive. So, I said, if you did that every week for 4 weeks, you'd be 2% more productive over the course of a month. If you did that every day for 13 4-week months in a year, 52 weeks, you would be 26% more productive. Is that possible? And the answer is yes, because there is a thing in success called the momentum principle. That means that once you start going, it becomes easier and easier to keep going and to go faster and faster. So, once you've become 26% more productive in the course of a year, your overall output, your results, your income will go up by 26%. What happens is you start to get into the swing of it. You start to be more effective, more efficient, and get more things done. You start earlier, you work harder, you stay later, you set better priorities, and so on. So, if you do this 26% each year for 10 years, you'll be 1004% better. And this is what happened to me, and it's happened to every single person I've ever worked with. Not long ago, I was in Seattle, and this young man came up to me. He's about 30. I met him when he was about 22. He was working in a used car lot in a small town outside of Portland. And his name is Chris. And he came up and he said, "Mr. Tracy, do you remember me?" I said, "Yes, it's a nice guy, great personality." He said, "Well, you know the 1000% formula that you taught me many years ago?" I said, "Well, of course, I remember because I've taught it to so many people." He said, "Brian, it doesn't work." I said, "It doesn't work?" He said, "It doesn't work." I said, "I've used it every single day ever since you taught it to me all those years ago." He said, "It doesn't work." I said, "How do you mean?" And he made me smile. And he said, "It doesn't take 10 years, it only took me 7. He said, "Today, I am earning 10 times what I was earning 7 years ago." He said, "I used it every day. It's absolutely amazing." He said, "I'm making more money today in a week or a month than I was often making in a month or a year." He said, "By using that formula." And what I did personally is I used it once, increased my income 10 times. And then I used it again and increased my income 10 times more, 100 times in 12 years. And so can you. There are 2 great principles of wealth attainment, and they're both equally important to understand and implement in order to be successful and acquire wealth. The first principle of wealth creation is to make compound interest work in your favor. Einstein said that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. Get that money in there and get it working for you. Peter Lynch of Magellan said that it's not time in the market that makes you rich. It's time in the market that makes you rich. Remember, if you invested $1 at 3% at the time of Christ, you'd be worth all the money in the world today with compound interest. Compound interest is phenomenal. So, make it work in your favor by getting the money in there early and leaving it there to work. The second principle of wealth creation is to use dollar cost averaging. When you buy stocks, don't worry about being right every time or getting the lowest price when you buy. It doesn't really matter unless, of course, stocks are overpriced at the end of a boom. But if you invest a steady amount of money every week, or every month, or every year, you'll end up buying things at the average price. The prices will go up and down, but you'll end up buying them high, buying them low, buying them average. And over time, you'll get the very best average deal. Dollar cost averaging is one of the great techniques for financial success. Now, here's an example of dollar cost averaging, investing steady, year after year. I have a good friend who came over here as an immigrant at the age of 17, couldn't even speak English. So, he began to learn English, and when he was 20 years old, he could speak enough English to begin studying financial success and going to college. Well, I had dinner with him not long ago. He has a 4-acre property and a 16,000 square foot home in a beautiful community on the East Coast. He's worth millions of dollars today. He owns banks, shopping centers, and national corporations. Here's what happened. When he was 20, someone told him that real estate is the key to financial success. They're not making any more of it. You should own real estate. Well, he never thought about that, and at that time, he was a student and didn't have very much money. But he was working evenings and weekends to pay for his needs, which is what they used to do in those days. So, he decided he would buy one piece of property each year. His first piece of property was in a small community outside of town, and it was a lot, and it cost $25 a month to service it. He had to sweat bullets to make those monthly payments, but his goal was to buy one piece of property a year, and he kept on doing it. He's now 49 years old. The last piece of property he bought last year was a $225 million shopping center. He still buys one property a year, only now they're much, much bigger. The skill and experience and discipline that he developed over time in buying those properties, which got bigger and bigger, made him a millionaire and then a multimillionaire. So, what's your excuse? What's our excuse? We're surrounded by hundreds, thousands, even millions of these stories. What is our excuse? It's always one thing. What is it? It's lack of discipline. So, remember, the two great principles of wealth creation are making compound interest work for you by getting the money in there and working, and using dollar cost averaging, whether it's buying stocks or real estate. Next is to maximize. Determine your special talents, abilities, and strengths, and focus on developing them to a higher level. And then multiply. Leverage yourself in your business with other people's customers, other people's knowledge, other people's abilities, other people's efforts, other people's money, and other people's resources. You've heard the old saying, it takes money to make money. Yes, that's true, but it doesn't have to be your money. It could be somebody else's money. And all successful people have developed the ability to call on the money of others. Why? It's because they do good work, they do good planning, and they take good care of their money, and people line up to give them more. There's now trillions of dollars of money waiting. I have a good friend, one of my business partners, multi-millionaire, started with nothing. There was tens of millions of dollars, and he's sitting on a pool of money that he keeps at very low levels of interest. He said, I can't find a place to put it, and I will not put it until I find a place. If somebody could come along with any kind of a business proposition where the person has credibility and a track record and has a good business proposition, there's more money available than you can dream of. The money is there in torrents. It's like tsunamis of money that are available. So, that's why you're reading the paper. You read such and such company just paid $1.8 billion, or 2.6, or 9.9. Or Google just offered Groupon $6 billion cash for their business. There's lots of money for good business ideas, but it doesn't have to be your money. It can be somebody else's money. And your ability to attract that money and to justify it is really important. Strategic planning is an essential part of the success formula. Your ability to create a clear and organized strategic plan will largely contribute to your success and wealth. In fact, it's virtually impossible to succeed greatly unless you have a clear idea of where you're going and how to get there. So, here are 3 key factors to remember when devising a strategic plan. Number 1, you are in business for yourself. This means that everything that is ever going to happen to your personal success corporation, your personal business, is up to you. No one else can be expected to do it for you. Now, here's a perverse law. The more that you accept that you are responsible for doing whatever it is, the more others will line up to help you. So, therefore, you say these words. If it's to be, it's up to me. Number 2, your aim in strategic planning is to increase your return on energy. We call this ROE. Now, the purpose of strategic planning in business is to increase return on equity, ROE, return on capital working in the organization. But your capital is mental, emotional, and human. Your job is to get the most out of your mental, emotional, and intellectual capital. Your job is to get the highest return on the amount of your life invested in your work. Number 3, successful individuals also have good personal strategic plans. Because a good strategic plan assures that you will get the highest return on the amount of energy that you invest in anything you do.